It's Amir here, your New Jersey real estate agent. If you saw my video yesterday about how this whole Greenland stuff, of Trump saying he'd want to buy it as a territory would blow over, and how the global economic flash crash that we saw yesterday would also blow over as long as you had your rose colored glasses off, you thought with a sober mind, and you stayed above water. And in less than 24 hours, all these things seem to go away because Trump is predictable when it comes to these things. And what do I mean by that? Look at what he said about making Canada the 51st state. Look at what he said about taking the Panama Canal over. Remember when he said he'll rebuild in Gaza and the Rivieras they have there? I mean, I'm paraphrasing him about the whole Gaza stuff, but he said these things. And so him talking about Greenland and wanting to buy Greenland is just another geopolitical strategy move to remind our European allies that you need to wake up because you are in a death spiral with your terrible policies. And what do I mean by their terrible policies? Look at what's happening in Europe. Europe is unrecognizable. I was in London a few years ago and it was unrecognizable. I didn't feel safe there. Look at what's happening in France. There are knives attacks everywhere. These undocumented people are raping young girls because they've never been around a Western or European society where there's openness and open-mindedness and you could dress the way you want. They don't know how to act. Um, they, I mean, people in Europe couldn't even celebrate Christmas this past year because these undocumented aliens were climbing on top of trees and destroying Christmas tree decorations. Besides the whole immigration, the terrible immigration policies Europe has embraced, you have to look at their anti-business regulations. If you know why there's a lack of M&As, mergers and acquisitions in Europe because they're so heavily regulated. You know why new businesses can't be created or are really hard to be created, or why there's a lack of entrepreneurship in Europe because there's they are the most regulated anti-business um, nation in the world. If you've got let me give you an example. If you got 10 employees, you need to provide the government with uh, salary information. You need to provide the government with health benefits. You need to provide the government with job responsibilities. And then let's say you get 15 people and you grow your work base miraculously, then you need to provide all the government with the things I just mentioned. But then now you need to tell the government, well, do you have they'll ask you, do you have enough men? Do you have enough women? If you don't, why don't you have them? What are their roles and responsibilities? These are the death traps that Europe is in. And it's just funny to me, or I guess not funny to me, but strange to me that Europe, um, particularly Britain, a country that ruled the world, like did they just get too comfortable all of a sudden, and there's just a lack of innovation there. So Trump goes to Davos, he speaks at the economic forum, and he's telling these businessmen and women, whether you like it or not, they're very successful businessmen and women at Davos who have massive companies that people like you and I likely work for or within. But he's telling them that you've got to follow the model of the US. And if you're an American citizen, you should be proud of what Trump did speaking at Davos at the Economic Forum, telling the world, look at us, look at what we've accomplished in a year. We've inherited 10% inflation. We inherited egg prices that were sky high, gas prices that were sky high. Now we're having 5-year low gas prices. Gas is under $2.50 in many states, under $2 in many states in the U.S. Um, Look at the creation of new businesses. They're booming in the U.S. Look at housing prices in the U.S. Yes, they're expensive, but they're slowly starting to come down. Look at the peace deals that we've brought. Look at our farmers in the U.S. So U.S. is he's pretty much bragging about the U.S. and its golden age of that we're in. And I think a lot of the issues in 2025 are going to be tailwinds in 2026. And if you're a pessimistic person who's worried about the economy, and I hear a lot of these critics talking about the economy being too hot and inflation running too high. Well, look, and the economy crashing. Look, I hear these critics, and I just say I wish I had a dollar every time they said things like that. These guys are the same people who've been predicting the economy to go into some sort of death spiral since the year 2000, and they've been dead wrong. What you really have to do is go in, like go all the way and start a business, buy the house you're talking about, invest in the market, because you don't want to be the um, the person who looks at their neighbor getting rich and like you're like, oh, I should have never bet against the U.S. Um, so, anyways, all this to say, people that are dissecting the whole Greenland uh, larger deal with respect to Europe, there's nothing to dissect there. I mean, he went there and he got what he wanted, which was for Emmanuel Macron to shape up, our European allies to shape up. And I bet you in 2026, you're going to see a lot of European countries starting to backpedal from the Green New scam, which is what it really is. You're going to see them, a lot of them, uh, drill, baby, drill in their countries. You're going to see them going back to Russia. And buy oil and gas and natural resources from them. And I think they're going to start to invest heavily into natural resources and infrastructure generally there. I also think you're going to see the end of the Ukraine and Russia war in 2026. Mark my words.